Tyler, hey, congratulations on your new film. It's a wonderful knife.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah. It's I'm always like running through that title. I'm like, it's a wonderful. Don't say life. Don't say life. Don't say life. Knife. No, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It was funny. When I saw it, I was going, "Is this some kind of play to It's a Wonderful Life?" And then when I finally watched the film, I was going, "Okay, now I get it."
Yeah. We thought it was important to like, we want to come to like, it's obviously a bit of inspired by that, but like, we didn't want to be beholden to it. It's not like a beat for beat kind of riff on it. Like we definitely want it to be its own thing. And you don't need to have seen It's a Wonderful Life to enjoy It's a Wonderful Knife. But it was, I love that movie. It's obviously a classic. So but we thought it was kind of a fun one that was, ripe for a little bit of the horror treatment.
Now, of course, you didn't write the script to this film, but what initially drew you that you wanted to direct something like this?
Yeah, so I mean, when I'm looking for things to direct that I didn't write, because I mean my first couple movies I was a writer or co-writer on, and so I kind of look for stories that are stuff that I wouldn't normally write myself. And so even though this is a slasher movie, and obviously I've made some slasher movies myself, this one had like a little more heart to it. Like it kind of had a little bit more of like the sincerity kind of baked into it in a way that Michael Kennedy does in a lot of his scripts. And whereas I tend to go for a little bit more of like a sharper kind of like I wouldn't say not necessarily nihilistic, but like like it's not quite as warm and fuzzy in a way. Even though we do have a commonality in the way we sort of treat our characters and their relationships. Just sometimes my perspectives are a little bit more warped, and so I wanted to see if I wanted to have the challenge of kind of playing it a little more straight and seeing if I could get things to work, on a more sincere level.
So how did you want to balance that? Trying to put the heart and soul in mix with blood, guts, and and
Yeah, I mean,
slashing.
it's something we were mindful of the whole time. Like I definitely think of horror and comedy as kind of two sides of the same coin. So they have a lot of things in common. But it was something that we were trying to do. Like we tried to always be cognizant of like where we were tonally at any given moment, but then at the same time give ourselves some options. Like allow the actors to bring in some ideas and things can get a little lighter, but make sure that things don't get too silly or serious. But that you have some options to kind of choose what works in the edit. And then it was just a question of being honest with yourself and being honest with the way people were reacting to things and figuring out how to shape it so that you don't go too far either way with the tone.
Now, was there ever a debate on who on the on the look of the slasher? Because I guess what I'm going after is like I thought this was refreshing that you didn't use a Santa Claus as a killer per se, but talk about Angel in this case.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it was an angel in the script, but it didn't really have any sort of design choices made. It was more just like he's wearing white, he's an angel, he has a knife, like, and so we wanted to define like what that looked like. And there's been a lot of killer Santa Clauses, over the years. And even as like Christmas last year was kind of like a radio, or, a robot Santa Claus, which I thought was super fun. But like we've seen a lot of killer Santa Clauses. And we couldn't really think of another sort of killer angel, and what is like a nightmare version of that. And we also want him to be a little bit graceful and kind of clean looking, and but at the same time, if he's white, like he can't really hide in the shadows. We have to figure out other ways to obscure him, or other ways that he can sort of stalk people. And it was just a fun set of challenges, and we really ended up getting that very neutral kind of like a kind of look that we found was very common in a lot of the like we looked at a lot of like porcelain, like angels that were like tree toppers.
Hmm.
And then sort of it kind of built the costume based on those, and tried to kind of borrow elements from there.
What was it tough or challenging with that reflective mask
Oh
for
yeah, he could not see much. The stuntman wore that a lot, and was doing very complicated choreography. And sometimes we had to we had different stages of the mask, some of which you could see out of more or less, and depending on how fast he's moving, you may not be able to tell. You could see his eyes, and sometimes we had to digitally erase the eyes and things like that. But it was a bit of a process, but we figured it out. It's just there's a lot of it's inherently almost impossible to make a completely opaque white surface that's
Mhm.
reflective that you can't see through, and that's it was a challenge.
What was it a challenge also on the cinematography side? Like you don't want the reflections of your
You know,
camera.
we actually wanted the we had a problem not being able to find stuff that was reflective enough because we wanted to see like the Christmas lights bouncing off the you know the mask in various scenes and like a reflection of the characters' faces and things like that. And we did a bit of that, but we want to do a little more. It's just like sometimes it just didn't really we weren't able to um it didn't necessarily call for it or we didn't have time and things like that. But yeah, we thought it was very creepy the fact that it was just so neutral.
Yeah. One of the things I love about this film is that you have Justin Long. Justin Long is a great actor, and he's on a very good horror streak right now. But
Yeah, yeah.
can you explain about the accent that how he talked in this film? Was that part of the script, or did he come up with that, or you guys adjusted?
Yeah, he was working on a voice, he definitely had some like we traded a lot of references back and forth, and a lot of them were kind of just like older sort of like like the kind of like the sort of corporate characters that are sort of caught between baby boomers and Gen X, kind of like those sorts of guys. Like we looked at a lot of like real estate commercials and things like that with very like squeaky clean kind of dudes who are a little bit smarmy. And he had like I know he pulled like a little bit of references from like Joel Osteen and stuff like that, and tried to kind of like find the right voice. But ultimately like it's more of a like I don't think it's based on any one thing. It was more just kind of coming out of a bunch of different conversations that we were having.
Tyler, tell us why you love horror so much. I mean, you've done slashers before.
Yeah, I think it's the best genre. Because like its audiences are the most excited about being told a story. Like anytime you make a drama, like dramas are supposed to be for everybody and kind of nobody, like you and there's also this sort of sense of like you have to like really impress me, or you need like some sort of giant you need some sort of like like a lot of big cast to sell people that do things, or even comedies are kind of get to the point where you can't really make any without like a big star. Whereas horror fans don't need a big star to sit down for a movie. They don't need to. I mean, I'm very proud of the cast we got, but the thing is, like, horror fans would have watched this movie anyway, and they're excited to do it because they want to be told a story and they're rooting for it to be something they connect with. And I think like all my favorite directors got their start in horror, and I think it's been that way forever. James Cameron and Francis Coppola, like all their first movies were horror movies. And even like Peter Jackson's, Sam Raimi, like all these guys that I really look up to, all started in horror movies because it teaches you a very very basic kind of like tempo, but as long as you check certain boxes, you can kind of make any movie you want. And that's what's so exciting to me, is because like I think all the best young filmmakers are coming out of horror.
That is true. That is true. That is well said. Well, Tyler, let me wrap up this interview with one last question. I like to ask this question to horror directors, because it's over the debate over practical versus VFX effects and special effects. Which side are you on? Because for this film, I believe you use both.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I definitely think that I like to go practical when I can. Sometimes it's not really up to you. Like sometimes like there are safety issues, sometimes whatever. Also, a lot of there are times there's a you go 75% practical, and then there's like a little bit you can kind of cheat, like you're using like use a practical thing, but you're releasing a wire or whatever, or you're doing like the practical gag, and then you're sort of like correcting it just a little bit. And I find that helps a lot. Like I try and stay away from stuff like too much CG blood and things like that, because you need like the practical version of it. I think that helps the performers. It helps a lot of things, but some of these things are a dying art. Like like there's not that many people who can set squibs anymore. There's not that many people that do full body cast. Like there is an exciting group of up and coming like practical effects people, but I think the 20 years kind of immediately following Jurassic Park, like a lot of those industries took a really big hit in that there wasn't as many like younger people learning the craft, and we're kind of rediscovering those things now because we realize that it needs to be more of a balance.
Yeah, well said. Well, Tyler, thank you very much for carrying this conversation. It's a Wonderful Knife is a very fun film, and horror aficionados going to love it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you checking it out.
Hey, thank you, appreciate it.